Congressman Barney Frank is already coming up with ways to spend that money that may not, by the way, even exist. And one of his bright ideas has got many Republicans up in arms. He wants to use $1.5 billion in so-called TARP dividends for a neighborhood stabilization fund that could subsidize groups like Acorn. And joining me with reaction to this outrageous proposal is Minnesota Representative Congresswoman Michele Bachmann. Congresswoman, welcome back. Good to see you.
Thank you, Sean. Always a great honor to be on your show.
By the way, I do refer to you as the second most hated Republican woman after Governor Palin. You know, what do you think it is? Liberals just despise you.
Well, they don't like to see conservative women who are pro-life, who are happy, who succeeded without their help. And that's the wonderful thing about women. Women don't need to have government in order to succeed. We're fully capable, fully competent, fully intelligent to be able to make our own way in the world.
All right, let's start with the significance of this bill, because I think our audience needs to know this. It is predicated on a false assumption, and that is that the TARP program actually produced a profit. But to have a profit, you would have to have had all the money paid back, and that has not happened. Isn't that correct?
Oh, that's absolutely correct. Just to remind your listeners, last fall, the United States Congress and the President signed $700 billion that went to bail out banks. We all remember that. That was a big vote that we took. And the premise is that we were going to see the federal government actually make money on this deal. That's what we were told by Secretary Paulson. We were supposed to fully repay the $700 billion and then have profits beside. Well, since that time, Sean, of the $10 that we lent out to the banks, we've received maybe $1 back into the Treasury. And now Barney Frank thinks that that $1 that's come back should go out to his friends like Acorn. We haven't even repaid that $700 billion, and he's already re-spending that money.
All right, tell us about these hearings that are going to take place, as I understand it, on Thursday, and what Barney Frank specifically go into the intricacies of that bill.
That's right. Sean, just last week, Barney Frank introduced this outrageous bill with no shame. Tomorrow he wants to have hearings, and he wants to begin marking up the bill shortly after that next week. He's serious about this, about funneling this little bit of money back out to Acorn. And remember, Acorn received $53 million of taxpayer funds from 1993 to the present. Now they have access potentially to $8.5 billion of tax funds. This would be an additional $1.5 billion for Acorn. And don't forget, in over 12 states so far this year, Acorn has been indicted for voter fraud. So this, I think we should raise the bar a little bit before we shovel out more taxpayer money to this organization.
Even if we ever made a profit on it, does anybody ever think that with the quadrupling of the deficit and $10 trillion in Obama debt that he's accumulating, that maybe we ought to think about paying down that debt instead of, you know, go ahead.
Exactly. If that was your family or my family, that's what we would do. If we had to take a loan out because we were in a tough situation, wouldn't you think that we would pay back that loan? I'll tell you one thing, the bank would make sure that we do, and that's what I am doing as a member of Congress and my fellow Republicans in the House. We are acting like the bank's board of directors, so to speak, saying, hey, pay your bills back, Barney Frank. Don't be borrowing on borrowed money. It's time we think about the taxpayers, and unfortunately, that's not what the Democrats in the House are doing.
All right, cap and tax passed in the House, may pass in the Senate, then it's nationalized health care. And now, as we were discussing with John Kasich, they're talking about a second stimulus bill. How likely is it that that could pass?
It's entirely possible that it could pass because, remember, Minnesota delivered the 60th senator just yesterday with Al Franken taking the oath of office. We can't underscore that enough. Democrats are trying to downplay this story, but the fact is, Sean, every lever of power in Washington, D.C. is dominated by one-party rule. The Democrats control everything, so they can deliver. They own the economy. They own every decision that comes out of Washington, D.C. And the American people need to be very concerned right now and let their representative know how concerned they are about the fact of one-party domination.
Is there any truth to the stories that we've been reading in the press that Democrats have been told specifically not to speak with Republicans on issues like health care and other things?
I don't know if that's true or not. I can't verify that. I don't know.
You haven't heard that. All right. Well, at the end of the day, do you sense that there's a shift, politically speaking? I mentioned a lot of polls to John Kasich. I'm calling him governor already because I have so much confidence he'll win. But do you sense a shift in terms of public opinion against this spending when 9 out of 10 Americans in 2 separate polls think Barack Obama is spending too much, when you look that he's accumulating more debt than every president from George Washington up to and including George W. Bush? Do you think there's a pushback? Do you sense from the calls coming into D.C. in your office that people now are getting that this is a really bad idea, that we can't afford all of this spending that they're going down?
Oh, Sean, without a doubt, there is buyer's remorse. I just met with a physician who didn't vote for Obama. She told me a number of physicians at the University of Minnesota now are stepping back from Barack Obama, and they're rethinking that vote. They're very nervous. And I want to thank the people of our country. They melted the phone lines here in Washington, D.C. over cap and trade. Unfortunately, the Democrats in Congress didn't listen. But I think they'll wake up and pay attention at the ballot box come November of 2010. We're going to see a very different story, and I think Republicans have a very good chance of winning majority in 2010 in the House.
Well, Congresswoman, I would actually consider it a badge of honor, the fact that I think you're right there behind Governor Palin. So I think that means you're doing something right. That means you're effective, and that means a lot of people will love you for your strong stand. So thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Sean. That's high praise.